Everyone knows that all Kung Fu comes from Shaolin. 1,000 years saw this city as the capital of China. Zhengzhou, the birthplace of Chinese civilization, hailed as the center of China since ancient times. Come to Shaolin Temple of Song Mountain, and you will see students from all around the world. Stay in urban Zhengzhou. You will find the modern urban planning as good as Memphis in the USA.
Let's walk into the Kong Baiwen Manor, experience the life in an ancient Chinese manor, explore the history of the Kongs, appreciate the beautiful Tong Sansai, feel the charm of Chinese porcelain, visit Du Fu's hometown, recall the thoughts of the poet sage. Hello everyone, welcome back to Joy in China. I'm your host David. In the last episode, we toured the ancient Confucian school, Sanyang Academy, and Zhangyu Temple, a Taoist temple where ancient emperors worshiped the heaven. Next, we'll take you to the environment where ancient Chinese merchant princes lived and find out its special features. The Kong Baiwen family is a collective name for Kong Yinhui's family in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Its fame spread because of Empress Dong Wajir Cixi. From the 6th to the 18th generations of the Kongs, more than 10 people were hailed as Kong Baiwen. The affluence of the Kongs lasted 12 generations and over 400 years. The Kongs made their fortune through water transportation and farming. They won rewards from the emperors many times. The highest rank they got was the 3rd rank officer, the same level as a governor of an American state. They were in full flourish at that time. The location of Kong Baiwen Manor was chosen by the principle of unity of heaven and man, pursuing harmony between man and nature. Cave dwellings were built along at the foot of mountains, houses along the streets, wharfs along the river, and high walls were built at passes. These parts formed a large, systematic, multifunctional lord manor. The manor formed a complete miniature society which could function with its own operations. There exist 33 yards, 53 houses, more than 1,300 rooms, and 73 cave dwellings. The overall floorage is 64,300 square meters. The manor is well proportioned, with many functions and grandeur. It has unparalleled scientific, artistic, and historic value. Therefore, Kong Baiwen Manor is hailed as the Grand View Garden, the epitome of traditional architectural culture, and the typical example of a traditional residence in central China. The status of the Kong family rose in the middle of the Ming Dynasty, engaged in the salt industry, water transportation, and military supplies. How did the Kong make their fortune? What secrets did they have?
这康巴万他是非常聪明的一个人，他除了利用自然条件这个水陆交通之外，他很会利用国家的政策。清初的时候，康熙皇帝就把全国这个藩镇割据平息以后，就要发展经济。发展经济呢，就要士农工商，士吧是知识分子这一层，农业、工业。也要充分发挥商人的作用，就是把商人跟其他士农工商都是全平等的。他需要经商的一些政策、方便条件，各级政府都要给他提供方便条件。所以康巴就是利用这政策，利用自然条件，利用政策，让自己的智慧发展。
The reason for the Kong family's great development was their adherence to the family's business idea. Do business honestly, abide by laws, and earn money in the right way and to the proper extent. Even today, these principles are still worth learning.
这整个这几幅影院呢，是康巴的经商理念。它是这中间这个分享，你看人发地，地发天，天发道，道发自然。这是中国的道德经，老子讲的，中国的一种哲理，它叫天地人和统一。康巴家呢，就根据中国最古老这种哲学理念，研究的这经商这样经商啊，叫诚，俗称叫诚信，诚在心， 心在教，教在活，活在生财。这是他根据中国传统这个哲学道理研究出来的一种经商的理念。就是要诚信了。首先要诚信，要交朋友，这样我的生意才能做活。
这是他们的那个对做生意的概念是吗？
对。
In ancient China, it was essential for businessmen to master the skills of identifying ingots. There is a silver identifying room in the manor, where the Kongs taught their offspring how to trade and identify silver.
这个时代是老相公给小相公传达经商的经验，管理账的经验，识别银子，怎样识别银子呢？银子有真有假，含量也不一样，有的含量成分高，有的含量成分低，还有金子，金子怎样识别呢？都要有老相公教小相公。
怎么看？这个是真的，这个是假的。
对，这要一代人一代人传播这经验。所以他这个生意做这个商业才能一代一代做下去。
他们怎么知道哪一个是假的，哪一个是真的？那个时候，
古代他是凭经验的。你比如说银子吧，是看颜色的，像元宝吧，都是看纹银嘛。纹银看上边做成以后这个纹儿，假设有纹了，这就是实诚银子。假如这个纹宽了或者没有纹了，这就很值得怀疑。这是第一。第二个是重量。重量他有经验嘛？拿着这银子，纯银子是重量是这样。假设里边掺的有假里边一般都是掺的铅，把它钻个洞里边灌的铅重嘛。但是一拿来它是很重，这就值得怀疑。怀疑了怎么办呢？最后是你是拿银子给我的，我说这银子就是有假，就放到这上面。咵就切开
然后可以看里面。一
切开里边的真假，
里面有什么东西？
假如里面全是真的了，那你这就对了，我按事实。假的了，退走。
In here, there are many rare ancient Chinese commercial tools. Take the abacus, for example. The abacuses here are in all kinds of shapes, including round, square, elliptical, fan-shaped, and arched. They say a rich family cannot maintain wealth for more than 3 generations. Once they get rich, it's hard for them to keep it that way. It's difficult through the ages, but how did the Kongs maintain their wealth for more than 400 years? The secret is their family motto. The treasure of this manor is the Give Leeway board, one of the 10 most famous boards in China. Give leeway is the family motto of the Kong family. It means that we should make allowances for unpredictable circumstances and for others. It's also the concentrated reflection of Confucianism. It tells the secret of the Kong family's 400-year-old prosperity. When giving leeway, too much is as bad as too little.
那徐老师可以给我们理解一下这个流域是什么意思呢？
流域就是康百万富裕起来以后，他不提倡高消费，而是告诫他的子孙要怎么办呢？第一，要留不尽之桥以还造化。第二呢，留不尽之路以还朝廷，这是朝廷给我们条件。咱看到的那个边是道理是一样。第三个呢，就是留不尽之财以还百姓。最后告诫子孙就是留不尽是福以还子孙。说我们享福的时候，我们很享福了，但是不要把福享尽。
这是很重要的，对，特别是第一个，我们现代人应该记得这个对自然的保护一下，是吗？保证。
对。
The Kongs resided in the Central Plains where the people worshipped the He Lua culture. They knew it well that when a thing reaches its limits, it turns around. Therefore, they made it their highest principle to give leeway. Meanwhile, the Kongs attached great importance to family education. They used every detail to teach their descendants to study. People say time is as precious as gold. In order to encourage their descendants to study, the Kongs learned from the ancients, took their leisure time on horseback, on a pillow, and on toilet to recite poems, think, and compose articles. Composing on the three won a widespread reputation. The Kongs urged their children to seek every second to study.
We visit all the yard. We can see the toilet. The toilet is here.
Oh, the most important room, some people might say.
Yes, and you can see the title, the three words, Chinese words. It means composing on the three. Yeah, it is the honor toward his generation. If you abide reading the horse and on the toilet, you must read the book. Don't waste your time.
Okay, so whether riding a horse or in bed or in the toilet, you should always be reading a book.
Reading the book.
So does this toilet have some special features that help you read books?
Yes.
As the saying goes, regulate a family with Taoism, it'll last more than 10 generations. With rural education combining study and farm work, it'll last fewer generations. With literature, it'll last fewer. And with money, it won't last over 3 generations. The Kongs paid great attention to the family education. Thus their family flourished for many years. In its prime, the Kongs were the richest family among the surrounding provinces, and their ships sailed on 6 rivers. They owned 12,000 hectares of land and a great fortune. Their land crossed a vast area from Jingjiang and Xi'an to Linyi and Jinan. When you looked around, all you saw belonged to the Kongs. The pavilions, terraces, and towers, delicately carved pillars and ridgepoles, and gold vaults are all demonstrating the grandeur and the grandness of this vintage building. More than 4,000 pieces of precious cultural relics that the Kongs used are exhibited in the manor, including furniture, rare curios, and paintings. They showed us the luxurious life of the Kongs and the social customs of the time. Junware was one of the 5 famous kilns in the Song dynasty, a sign of Henan culture. It is said that 10 million in cash is not as precious as a piece of Junware. Junware is known to the world with its unique art of furnace transmutation. Kong Baiwen Manor houses all kinds of Junware. These pieces are luxurious as well as elegant, the best of the best. You can imagine how rich the Kong family was. In Chinese ware history, not only does the Junware occupy an important position, Tang San Sai is also an indispensable one. The Tang dynasty was a period of great prosperity. The prosperity in the economy led to the blossoming of art and culture. Tang San Sai is a tricolored glazed pottery of the Tang dynasty. It's known for being vivid, colorful, and lifelike, hailed as the elite among ancient China potteries. What kind of pottery products can be called Tang San Sai? What are the features of Tang San Sai?
我们进去的时候一看，我就觉得这个是不是做错了？因为我就看这边有那个釉，它就是漏下去，然后在下面有小糖的，但是我看每个都一样的，所以应该不是做错了，是吗？
这种颜色上了以后要经过葫芦烧，烧了以后它的颜色呢互相融化，融化的过程当中它还会变成其他各种颜色。
Gongxian kiln was the most important kiln we've discovered that made Tang San Sai. Its success in making Tang San Sai is an eternal glory in Chinese ceramic history and has a great influence on the ceramic development afterwards.
那我们现在在郑州工艺是吗？ 在工艺有很多那个古代的那个陶瓷，那个唐三彩的陶瓷。这个唐三彩有什么其他的特点吗？
这我给你介绍一下
啊。
贡献唐三彩，目前在全国出土的所有三彩当中，经过专家科学们研究，75%都是属于贡献药三彩。所以贡献的唐三彩有很多特点，一个呢，它这个颜色呀，奔波灿烂，就是变化万千。
People were likely to have elaborate funerals in the Tang dynasty. Only high-ranked officers and nobilities could use Tang sansai as their sacrificial objects, so Tang sansai also symbolized dignity at that time.
这样的，在那个唐代那边的那个时候，不是普通人放这样的东西在家里，是吧？
不允许的。像这类东西，在唐代有规定，唐代制定的法律上有，必须是4品以上。4品官以上，去世以后，皇帝给他命令有多少数量，多高，葬多少家，只能葬，其他老百姓不允许。
In English, China means ceramics. The great achievement in ancient Chinese China and its spread made people all over the world love this kind of product and connected China with China forever. Today, with high artistic value, collection value, and use value, Junware and Tang Sansai have become high-grade consumer goods. People buy tea sets, tableware, vases made of ceramic to decorate their houses, or give it to their friends as presents. Tang is famed worldwide. Tang Sansai wares have been favored by people at all times and all over the world, with their elegant shapes and bright colors. Nevertheless, the Tang dynasty is not only famous for Tang Sansai. Poems of the Tang dynasty also enjoy a great reputation around the world. Du Fu, born in the late Tang dynasty, was a great poet who cared a lot about the fate of his nation and has affected Chinese people from generation to generation. Wine and meat rot behind vermilion gates, while at the roadside people freeze to death. The rich lived a luxurious life, while the poor were driven from pillar to post. Du Fu witnessed the hardship of the people in troubled times and wrote many poems about it. He wrote more than 1,000 poems, making great contributions to Chinese poetry and the world's culture. As a poet sage, his poems have long crossed national boundaries and gone into the world, influencing many countries. In 1962, 1,250 years after Du Fu's birth, he was recommended by the World Peace Council as a world-renowned celebrity of literature. So Du Fu's poems are not only a prestigious heritage of the Chinese nation, but also a spiritual wealth for the whole world.
If you're watching this in the United States, there's a very high chance that you've never heard of China's poet sage, Du Fu, born in the Tang Dynasty in the year 712. But he is an extraordinarily important figure in Chinese culture and history, as well as being very influential around Asia and the rest of the world. We're here at his birthplace. So, in a moment, we're going to go inside and learn more about the life of China's poet sage, Du Fu. It's made of bronze, and I'm told it weighs about 10 tons. And as we can see, it's pretty big. It's about 34 feet tall. This is really quite a big statue to honor a poet, and it really highlights how important he is to Chinese culture and history, and the respect that he has inside of Chinese culture. And part of the reason why it was built was to commemorate him and preserve his legacy for future generations to also understand and appreciate.
Du Fu lived in the period when the Tang dynasty fell into dissolution, so his works were mainly about social instability, war, political corruption, and people's suffering. Thus, he was hailed as a poet historian. He witnessed the people's suffering brought by war and patriotism. and was inspired to compose many enduring epics, including 3 sarcastic poems about corrupted officers and 3 farewell poems about poor soldiers. Du Fu's narrative poems and lyric poems both vividly illustrated the real life of his time. Former residences or birthplaces are the best locations to commemorate their owners. At the foot of Bijia Mountains, Gongyi is the place where Du Fu was born.
We're standing here at the Bijiashan, or the Penholder Mountain, which resembles, quite strikingly resembles, an ancient Chinese calligraphy brush holder. Now this has sort of extra significance because in fact Du Fu was born in a cave at the base of this mountain in 712 AD. Now that we understand the poet a little bit better and his life and times, let's go check out where he was actually born. So here it is, the actual dwelling, cave dwelling where Du Fu was born. This cave dwelling and the greater compound were first established by Du Fu's great-grandfather, who was the county magistrate. And this is where Du Fu spent his childhood and first started learning to write. So that's why there's some special significance to the fact that this cave is underneath the mountain that resembles an ancient Chinese calligraphy brush holder, because he in fact would have been using a brush like this himself to write his poems. Though he roamed around China for much of his life, he always considered this to be his true home. So let's go have a look at where he was born.
The poet-sage Du Fu composed many marvelous poems. Besides historical factors, what kinds of influence did his family have on him?
现在我们来到的是为大家讲述杜甫少时在姑妈家成长的一些经历。正堂的正中陈列的是杜甫的二姑妈怀抱杜甫和自己的幼儿坐在榻上玩耍时的一幅场景。
Born in a cave dwelling and growing up in a big house, how did this poetic genius spend his childhood?
现在我们来到这个展示，向我们讲述的是杜甫9岁书写大字的一个状态。90书大字，有作成一囊。杜甫9岁的时候已经会书写大作了，已经写了有1麻袋那么多。到中年时期呢，他的书法就已经形成了一种受硬的风格。
Born and buried here, although he didn't spend much time in his hometown, he thought of his hometown all the time, and he left us the famous lyric, "The moon in the hometown is particularly bright." Wherever you go, there's no place like home. Zhengzhou is not only the hometown of Du Fu, but also the root of all Chinese. In this episode, we toured the magnificent Kang Baiwen Mansion, saw the beautiful tricolored glazed pottery of the Tang Dynasty, visited Du Fu's hometown, and appreciated the cultural charm of Zhengzhou. Culture is a city's soul, while life is its body. In the next episode, we'll follow Dan and walk into the lanes and alleys of Zhengzhou and experience the daily life in this ancient city. Thanks for watching the show. See you next episode. Bye-bye.